The X day tomorrow is our review day, and then have another review day when you guys get back from break. And we'll be looking at the test that second class period you guys get back. So not crazy enough to like walk in the door and hand you a test, but that week we walk in the door, I'll hand you a test. I think it's Thursday would be the chapter 11 test date. And I'll do some counting of days that you guys have remaining and what's left in chapter 12 and make a decision about whether we'll do what we'll do for chapter 12. It may be a situation where like seniors that are not exempt from the exam, that your exam is just going to be the chapter 12. Is probably what I would like to do, just kind of continue doing chapter 12. And if you're exempt from the exam, then that's it. If you're not exempt, then I hand you the chapter 12 test as your exam. And that feels fairly reasonable and easy for all parties involved. For a class that's still a mixed class with juniors that are still going to continue going and that kind of stuff. Everybody feel all right so far? Okay. So the idea here in 11.3, we've talked about, like all the different types of, bless you, types of accounts so far with regard to like, you're running like a merchandising corporation. We've talked about expenses and equity and all that kind of stuff, but what we haven't talked about is like the owner's equity account. Because if you're running some big like multinational merchandising company, who is the owner? Is it a single individual? No, who owns it? The stockholders, right? So what section 11.3 is about is how we're going to be recording paying the stockholders, basically. Everybody's okay? And this makes sense if we think about like your, the Dick's Sporting Good Corporation, where it's like you're bought and sold on the Dow Exchange. There's who knows how many hundreds of thousands or millions of stockholders in your corporation. Like, you can't possibly have a separate account for each one of these people as an owner's equity account. Like, that's insane. We have to account for that kind of in one lump, and that's going to be what 11.3 is about. So there's simply like one kind of transaction that's happening, which is nice, right? So the different type of stockholder equity accounts are capital stock, paid in capital in excess of par, I don't know what that means, retained earnings, dividends, and an income summary. So let's start defining what some of these things are. So an amount earned by a corporation and not yet distributed to the stockholders is called retained earnings. So that's like the profits the company has made, that eventually that'll get paid out to the stockholders, but we haven't done that yet. Earnings distributed to stockholders, those are called dividends. The group of people elected by the stockholders to govern the corporation is called the board of directors. An action by a board of directors to distribute corporate earnings to stockholders is called declaring a dividend. Typically that happens just a couple of times a year. It doesn't happen daily. So declaring a dividend, this is the type of the only type of transaction we're going to be talking about in 11.3. So it says 3 Greens Board of Directors declared a quarterly dividend of $0.05 per share, so 5 cents per share. Capital stock issued is 75,000 shares, so that's how much stock is in circulation. The total dividend is $3,750. They got that by taking the 0.05 and multiplying it by the 75,000. Date of payment is January 15th, memorandum 43. So when we date, there's two, this transaction is going to appear in two different locations. One of them is going to be dated on the 15th for when the, thank you. Joe Lancy, you're leaving early, it looks like. Okay, perfect. One of the dates, or one of the places we're going to record this is going to be dated the 15th when we've declared a dividend. And the other place where we'll record this will be dated January when the actual payment is issued. Is everybody okay with that? That's what the two dates. So depending on which journal or ledger we're entering things in, we may use December or January as the date. Everybody's okay? Okay. So the idea here is this is going to get recorded in our general journal, the initial transaction on December 15th. So we've dated it December 15th. We're calling this dividends, and then the subcategory underneath it is dividends payable. So the document number is the memorandum. We have a debit to dividends and then a credit to the account or dividends payable account. Everybody's okay with this idea? Because the money being removed is coming from the dividends count. The money adding is going into the dividends, right? Everybody's okay? Just like there's an accounts and accounts payable, same idea. We credit the account or sales account, or I'm sorry, debit your accounts payable or your, the purchases, and then debit or credit the accounts payable, same kind of idea. And then on January 15th, we have that we're paying that dividend out as cash. So in our cash payments journal, we have our January 15th date. The account title is dividends payable. And the check number is 742. I don't know where they would have gotten that from. The amount debited and then the cash to credit. So again, the cash is credited because that cash is coming out of our general fund as we're paying out dividend to our stockholders. But that's the gist of it. It's like the only type of transaction we're going to see. Again, gets recorded as dividends in the general journal and as dividends payable in the cash payments journal. So just the two places. What major chart of accounts division are owner's equity accounts for a corporation normally listed? And those are stockholder equity, because there is no singleton owner. You have lots and lots of owners. Why is only one account maintained for the investment of all owners in a corporation? Well, because there's like too many of them to have individual equity accounts. That's insane. For, a couple of pennies here and there most of the time, like just group that all together. It's just stockholders in general. Which account does a corporation use to record earnings not yet distributed to stockholders? That's your retained earnings. And how and when do net income and dividends impact permanent stockholders' equity accounts? So at the end of a fiscal period, temporary accounts are closed to retained earnings. Net income increases the retained earnings, and dividends reduce the retained earnings. So at the end of every month, we close out that returned earnings temporary account. Remember, closing it out means it's zeroed, right? So whatever profit we've made, the net income we've made is stored there. And at the end of every month, that's paid out as dividends. So it zeroes out that retained earnings account at the end of every quarter or fiscal period or whatever it's. Okay? What action is required before a corporation can distribute income to its stockholders? The board of directors has to declare a dividend. They have to say, okay, we're ready to pay this out. And that's the gist of it, right? Hopefully that feels okay. Let's fire up the work together here on the old MindTap. If you're following along and you want to fire this up too, I encourage you to do so. I'm going to pause here for a minute if you need to take out your tablet and get this guy fired up. I know your tablets work at an astronomically fast rate, or not. So I will pause here for a moment so you can fire up your Cengage and pull up the work together here. But as you can see, this is not a elaborate assignment here. There's not much going on. So it says on December 15th, the board of directors declared a dividend of $2 per share for the capital stock issued of 6,000 shares, memorandum 112. Okay, well, that's going to be into the general journal. So December 15th, we have dividends, and then underneath it will be dividends payable. The document number is the memorandum. We are debiting $2 per share for 6,000 shares will be 12,000. And then we'll credit 12,000. And if we do check our answer, oh, I forgot the page number. Gosh dang it. I am the worst at that. Use page 12 of the general journal and then page 15 of the other one. Okay, let's get those in there. Everybody okay with the first step? Okay, and then it says on January 15th, we we paid the cash for that declared dividends. So there we have the dividends payable. We use check C5, we don't need a C there, 556 for 12,000 and 12,000, and I think that does it. And there she is. 11.3 should be easy peasy. Knock that out, and took us 3 minutes to do that one. Not too bad. $242. Questions about 11.3 here? No, should be all right. Okay, you guys should take the remaining time we have together, the next 65 or so minutes, and start banging out any not yet completed Chapter 11 assignments, so 11.1 or 11.2 stuff if you haven't finished those yet, and then on to your 11.3 stuff, like start cranking, guys and gals. Get some stuff done. You know what I'm saying here, folks? All right, I'm going to stop talking, get out of your way, and let you have at it. Come holler at me if you have questions on stuff.